station. This is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
I am ready.
KTRK, this is Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
I asked him how he's doing. He keeps saying he's doing.
Station, this is KTRK TV. How do you hear me?
I have you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Brother and fellow astronaut Scott Kelly.
Good morning, Scott. You're going to be talking to Tom and Sharon here in about 30 seconds. Tom and Sharon in about 30 seconds.
Twins, but they are best friends. Scott Kelly is currently the commander on board the International Space Station, and during this entire ordeal, he's been on board the ISS in orbit some 220 miles above the Earth.
And it's a rare opportunity to talk to anyone on board the space station live. This morning, we are. Scott Kelly joins us now live from outer space to talk about the progress his sister-in-law is making. And Scott, good morning. The progress that Gabby is making seems to defy the odds. That has got to lift your spirits.
Yeah, it's really good news. Every time I talk to my brother, it seems like she's making really small steps, which I think in this type of injury is really, really critical. And you know, looking, you know, we're all optimistic about her outcome.
Scott, when was the last time you had a chance to talk to your brother? And just from the impression you're getting from him, how do you think he's coping with all of this?
I actually, I probably talk to him at least twice a day, in the morning when I get up, and then right before I go to sleep. And so I spoke to him actually this morning, and I think he's coping as well as you can in this type of situation. Certainly, it's you know, it's very, very difficult, but I think he's doing as good as you could expect anyone to do.
Scott, back to that fateful day, how did you hear about the shooting of Gabby, and what went through your mind? Mark said his was just disbelief for a number of minutes.
Well, I got a call from the control center in Houston that the chief of the astronaut office, Peggy Whitson, was going to give me a call in a few minutes on a private space-to-ground channel. And when you hear that, you're kind of, you know, expecting bad news to get a call without any heads up to tell you, to have Houston tell you that the chief of the astronaut office is going to, you know, call you soon. And you know, I talked to her a couple of minutes later, and she, you know, told me that you know, Gabby had been shot, and you know, there were certain unconfirmed reports of things, and that was that. It was a pretty quick conversation.
Now, when you started getting those first initial reports, had you heard, like some people initially had, that she had died? And what was your first reaction when you may or may not have heard that?
Well, I told Houston as soon as I got the word that I wanted to hear any news that the news was reporting, and they, you know, they complied with my request. So they told me, and again on a private channel, you know, the tragic news that was, you know, fortunately turned out to be incorrect. So yeah, I had heard that, and I knew it was unconfirmed. So. It was, of course, you know, a horrible thing to hear, and but I still hope that, since it wasn't confirmed, that it wasn't true, and it turned out, you know, that was the case, which was, you know, fantastic news to eventually hear.
Scott, you two are best friends. Has it been frustrating to be 220 miles above the Earth and not be at Mark and Gabby's side?
Well, certainly, Tom, I would prefer to be there with Gabby and my brother and other friends and family, but I don't get easily frustrated, and I recognize that you know, the best thing I can do in my situation, which is here on the space station, is to just continue to do my job, do it as best as I know how, and then to support my brother in how I can support him from here, and, you know, other friends and family which is, frequent phone calls. I call him often. I call my kids more often than I was able to talk to them. And so, it's not really frustrating. I kind of understand that's, these are the cards we're dealt, and we have to live with them.
Now, you mentioned how you were able to talk to your family more often because of this, especially your children, and both of you having 2 children. How have they been able to cope with this, and how have you been able to communicate all of this information to them to keep them calm?
Well, they were certainly very, very upset when they had thought Gabby had died, and they were still upset, of course, just from the fact that she was shot and is going to have a long recovery. And, so I talk to them often, and, kids, fortunately, I think are somewhat, more resilient in a lot of ways than adults. And, they're doing better. And, they certainly care for her and, are upset about it, but I think they'll be okay.
NASA, Scott, as you know, has named a backup commander for STS-134, but knowing your brother, knowing Gabby, do you think Mark will be on that mission?
I don't know. It's possible, and it's also possible that he might not be. It's a decision that he'll make in consultation with the astronaut office and other folks at NASA, and there are a lot of things to consider, but I think he'll make the right decision, and I think he'll also weigh what Gabby would want in this scenario, and I think we'll know something about that in a couple of weeks, within a few weeks from now.
And we can only imagine just how difficult this probably is for you to try to cope being so far away, as you've mentioned, and trying to continue your training and all of that. Can you give us any idea on just how NASA may have helped to prepare you for all of the training that you've been doing, but prepare you for something like this?
Well, we have, prior to flight, we have training in how to cope with these kind of situations, and although you hope never to experience one, we have had something like this. We have had people experience death of family members and such in the past. So I think the training helps with that, and there's a lot of avenues for communication, not only with your friends and family, but we have frequent conferences with psychologists and psychiatrists, just as a matter of course, as a matter of being in this isolated environment. So there are avenues for us to talk to people if we need to in this type of circumstance.
Scott, one final question, and that is, I found your statement very interesting, that you look out the window of the space station every day and you see that peaceful world, and yet when you get in close, there are these kinds of things that can jar anyone. Your feelings now as you face the recovery of your sister-in-law and help your brother along?
It's like I said, it's a horrible tragedy. It's definitely, it's definitely been sad. A little bit of anger, but I think in time people get over that. What I would like to try to focus on, the more of the positive things, and maybe give a little bit of positive advice. And what we do here in space is incredibly challenging, and our country faces a lot of challenges. And the way we deal with challenges in this kind of environment, doing things that are very, very difficult, is through teamwork. And I'd like to see maybe more teamwork, with people, not only in our government, but everyone in meeting the challenges our country faces. So, hopefully, if anything good can come out of something like this, it's that we learn to work better together.
All right, Scott Kelly live in the space station. Much more in our later newscast. Thanks, Scott.